rolling, check. Come and stay on the hardwood. Pump bacon, rib shaking, chillin' with. I be rolling out off the hardwood, straight.
This week on Off the Hardwood, Toronto Raptors forward Tracy Murray and Paul Jones visit the Royal Ontario Museum, where they check out the new dinosaur exhibit, talk hoops, and hang out with some Raptors fans.
Tracy Murray over the big C.
Welcome to another edition of Off the Hardwood, and I'm your host, Paul Jones, today at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto with the dinosaur exhibit and maybe what people might call one of the original dinosaurs, an original raptor, Tracy Murray, with us today. Tracy, good to be here with you. And I say that in a fun sense because you were one of the original Raptors, a guy here who's come to Toronto here after other places in the league. Can you recall some of your first impressions of Toronto?
Well, the first impression, and I've talked about this numerous times, was like one of the first games we've ever played, and we were at home. And you know how they hand out the little toys and the wave behind the baskets. And this is when the crowd was the fans were pretty much uneducated about the game. And they're sitting there waving. I'm shooting free throws and they're waving it right behind us.
It's like the wrong side.
And I'm laughing the whole time I'm shooting free throws. And to see how educated the fans are now, how far the organization has come now, from that time till now, it's been very impressive.
Now, Tracy, you'd had experience dealings with Toronto beforehand because in '91 you were here as a member of the U.S. Pan Am team, and I remember that team with big names like Eric Montrose, Grant Hill, and here was this kid from California who was kind of making a name for himself. Tell me about your impressions of Toronto back then and how they've changed.
Well, back then it was that was the summertime, so we came up here when it was warm. It was a nice city. Most things that I've done that time was basically going to the mall during the free time and walked around
music.
a little bit.
You were always into music.
Always, man. I had to go get my music. But I've always had a nice time up here, and even playing in the Sky Dome during that time, and playing exhibition games against the Canadian national team from that point to being here the first year in Raptors history to coming back now. It's the fans have been great. The people of Toronto has been great. Thank you for making the transition a lot easier because I've been knowing you since then.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, so.
Now, you talk about a transition. You had to leave Toronto, or you chose to leave Toronto after the first year. What happened there?
Well, I chose to help my family over happiness. And I was happy up here. I was getting plenty of time up here. I reproved myself, re-solidified a spot in this league to where I had a foot outside the league. The fans grew to know Tracy Murray. Mm-hmm. Not just Tracy Murray, the basketball player, but through
the
appearances,
person, right.
through stuff like this that you put me on back in the day.
Yeah, we used to do
they
that.
got to know Tracy Murray, the person. And I fell in love with the town just as much as they fell in love with me. And I was real sad to leave here.
What took you to Washington, Tracy? You talk about sacrificing happiness. What took you to Washington?
Obviously, I can only go up 30% of what I was making the year before. And the year I was here, I was only making minimum.
Right.
So I was looking at a situation where I better take it now because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. And that's what I did. I took the contract, the 7-year contract, and helped my family out. Everything was cool.
Management actually counseled you out of that because Isaiah Thomas, who was the GM here at the time, said to you, Tracy, I know you love it here, but you better take that money and we'll see you down the road, right?
Exactly. He said, you know what, I'll be a fool to sit here and tell you not to take that. And I was honest with him. I sat down, I talked to Isaiah. We've always had open communication. We talked about everything, and he's still a great friend of mine to this day. He's responsible for giving me that second shot, and I will always feel indebted to him to this day.
Well, second shot in Toronto. Let's go check out this dinosaur exhibit. It's a great exhibit, actually. It came from all over Europe. It's come to Toronto here. And I guess they've been collecting it since somewhere around the 1930s. So it's kind of appropriate that we're talking about a team of actually not even dinosaurs anymore. You guys move up and down the floor, but at a dinosaur exhibit. We're going to go and see the rest of the exhibit. Tracy, let's talk about coming to Toronto, and before you came to Toronto. People don't know about your high school career. Are you comfortable telling us about some of your accomplishments, or do you want me to be telling people, because you were a prolific scorer, the all-time leading high school scorer in California prep basketball?
Yeah, I was very blessed. Coach LeDuc was a great coach. If you're a great scorer, go to Glendora High School, because he will find ways to put the ball in your hand, different places for you to score, use your strengths to score. Ask my brother Cameron, he was the second leading scorer in California history, and Casey Jacobson is now in Stanford. He's now the leading scorer in California history. All three of us, you see California history as far as scoring, you see all three at the top of Glendora High School.
Now, you went to UCLA and played for a legendary coach there, and had the second highest average next to some guy named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as a sophomore. What was it like playing at UCLA?
It was great playing at UCLA. The tradition, the mystique of Pauley Pavilion. You know, it's every time you tap that wall to come out onto that floor and play the game, it almost gives you goosebumps every time you come out there. And it was a dream of mine to play for UCLA, so that part of my dream as far as basketball was accomplished.
I'm sure another dream fulfilled, scoring 50 points in an NBA game. Not many people know that about you. When you look down the list, I look down the list of 50-point scorers: Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Bernard King, Tracy Murray. People are unaware of that you're in Washington.
Well, they don't expect that out of a six-man, but as you say, I've been a scorer my whole career, and when having the opportunity to start and play major minutes, I can put the ball in the basket. That's what I do.
Led the NBA, or one of the top three-point shooters, and an appearance at All-Star Weekend. What was that like?
That was incredible. I was so nervous during that week, because the All-Star Weekend, outside of the playoffs, is like the biggest thing you can be involved in with basketball, and it was an honor to be part of that.
I know you've always gotten great support from Bob and Candy, and your mom and dad, when you were here in Toronto that first year, were always a part of that. How important is family to you?
Family is very important. Family, other than God, is first and foremost. Because without your family, who do you have to turn to when in times of struggle? You know, there's a lot of people out there that don't have families to turn to, and they're getting into trouble with their so-called boys or their so-called friends that aren't really friends. They just want to see them do dirt. And I'm very blessed to have my father in my life. He's been a very positive male role model for me. I'm blessed to have a brother as close that I have. You know, I'm very close to my brother.
What's the age difference you and your brother?
We're 4 years apart. He's 26 now. My brother Cameron, he was a standout at the University of Louisville. He played with the Globetrotters for a little while. He's a very, very talented player, but he's also a great person. And I'm just glad to be close to him. And Mom, what more can you say?
Mom is
Behind
mom,
every
right?
strong man, there's a strong woman. And Mom has been very strong. She's been there for us. And I'm just very blessed to have a family like I have. I was walking by and I was like, vampire!
And look at this, Tyrannosaurus batar. That's Latin, I think.
70 to 72 million years ago, man. I'm crying about 30 years, and it's 70 to 72 million years ago.
This looks like a raptor. Close to it? What do you think?
Close to it, probably a little bit bigger. I hear raptors get to about 6 feet, maybe 6.5 feet tall.
This man not only plays for the Raptors, he knows all the information about the real Raptors.
Well, I'm a big Jurassic Park fan, man. I have all three of them, so I have a fascination of animals. I watch a lot of Animal Planet and stuff like that, and then you know, the Jurassic Parks, I was very interested in dinosaurs too, just to learn a little bit more about them. It's cool.
Hits back rim. Peterson with the follow. To Murray. Got it. Dial M for Murray.
Well, Murray's starting to heat up.
The league, 9 years for you, many accomplishments, but what some people may not know is you own a championship ring.
Yeah, right before I came to Houston, right before I came to Toronto, I was with the Houston Rockets with the Dream, and he carried us, literally carried us to a second championship, him and Clyde Drexler, and that was a great experience, and I'd love to be part of that again someday. That was an experience that no one can describe.
You told me that last year, that when the team was making a move into the playoffs, that the feeling of having a ring was something that was difficult to describe. How close is this team this year to that?
Well, once we, you know, when you have a guy like Dream that's been there and that's been in the wars and that has two of them. I have one, but mine was more or less watching. You know, I was still a young guy at that time. Dream carried his team through them wars, and you know, we're the only two that have them. And we have a lot of guys with, like Antonio and Chris Childs, with playoff experience, and those guys are still hungry to get a ring. So when you have that type of experience with them guys, with them veterans, and we can all put it together, and just with the mixture of the young guys, young talented guys like Vince and Mo Pete, and we have all the tools here, and with Coach Wilkins and everybody, we have all the tools here to be a championship team. Right now, we've been struggling with injuries. Mo Pete's down right now. I mean, that plays a big factor in winning a championship. Everybody has to be healthy. The team has to be running on all cylinders when that playoff time comes. You have to be playing your best basketball. You can't wait for anybody to recover from an injury or stuff like that. I mean, you have to be running on all cylinders, everybody healthy.
You guys had great chemistry in that first year. As somebody who was traveling with the team a lot, you would come to the back of the plane, the area where we called the hood, because the media were not allowed to go to the front of the plane. So yourself, Tony Massenberg, Eddie Pinkney, people like that. Are you still in touch with some of those guys?
Oh yeah, I see Eddie whenever we go down to Miami. Of course, he's doing the TV and radio for Miami Heat. I see Tony Massenberg whenever we play him. Of course, we see Damon. There's Carlos Rogers, he's still in the league. So I see them guys. Alvin Robertson, I see him whenever we go to San Antonio. I leave him tickets to come to the game and talk to him for a minute. And so it's good seeing them guys. And those who I haven't seen, I hope to see soon, because we have a special bond.
A special bond being the first team. And what did you learn from some of those veterans? Alvin Robertson, Brendan Malone, who was a longtime assistant, got his first head coaching gig. What did you learn from those guys?
I'll tell you one thing. One thing I learned, the most I've learned, was from Alvin Robertson. You sit there, you watch this guy, he come off of a couple years off because of his back, and he was out there playing harder than anybody. And he was
his word, right?
Yeah, he competed his behind off. He was the oldest player on the team and competing like the youngest. And he would run, he would play hard for 48 minutes. That team saw what Alvin was doing out there. He didn't only lead by talking, he led by example. And that's what I learned from him, is to go out there and play hard for 48 minutes.
Well, there are 33 of these things to see, and I think we better get a move on if we're going to see the others.
All right.
You had an injury when you were a kid that many people don't know about. I see you dunking, and the footwork that you use is conventional for a left-handed layup, and I see those dunks from you, and I remember asking you about it, and you told me why you do that. Tell our watchers.
Well, when I was 14 years old, I was growing too fast, and I was playing with a severe limp. A lot of pain in my left hip, and I was wondering what it was. And through one doctor, they said I would never play again. The second doctor said the same thing. Then I went to Dr. Stanford Noel, who was in the orthopedic hospital. And he said, oh, we're going to fix this right up. What I had was something called slip hip epiphysis.
Oh, man, it sounds like a dinosaur name.
What happened was the bone had curved, and it started slipping out of socket, and they had to go in, cut the curved part out of the bone, insert 8 pins, let the bone mend back together. and that's how things was completed. I was out for my whole freshman year. California's all-time leading scorer, and I missed my freshman year.
So there could have been way more points.
Right after I made varsity, man. I made varsity with a limp, and then I had to sit out.
Obviously successful, so people will know now when they see that dunk from Tracy Murray, that two-handed dunk that we see with the left-handed footwork, they'll know why it comes about. We got more to see of the exhibit. Let's get going.
All right.
Just the thigh. That's just the thigh. It's like Flintstone. This is just the thigh.
Oh, the Brontosaurus burger?
Brontosaurus. That's what it is. Brontosaurus.
Time now for our Off the Hardwood Raptors trivia. Last week's question was, which team did Lenny Wilkens coach to an NBA title in 1979? The answer? The Seattle Supersonics. Seattle defeated the Washington Bullets 4-1 in the 1979 NBA Finals. This week's question is, who was the first head coach in Raptors history? Send your answers to us at offthehardwood@torontoraptors.com. Off the Hardwood trivia winners will receive official Jerome Junkyard Dog Williams clothing. Coming up next week on Off the Hardwood, tune in to see Raptors center Eric Montross and rookie forward Michael Bradley sit down with Paul Jones at a Toronto waterfront landmark. And what's it like to be a rookie on the Raptors?
Got more light on that one. Nice meeting you. Sure, no problem. I've always felt something for Toronto. Toronto was the first city that took to Tracy Murray. They grasped Tracy Murray and had love for him. So I've always had love for Toronto. This is Stegosaurus right here.
Now, I know when you leave basketball, you can come and work at the museum. You can work at the museum in the dinosaur exhibit, although this part of the exhibit is actually, it actually belongs to the museum. It stays here. The other stuff will pack up and leave, but this stays here. How'd you know that was a Stegosaurus, man?
Well, one thing I remember about Stegosaurus when I was a kid was that tail back there's got some spikes on it. He also has stuff on his back here. But on this, they got spikes back there. He used to swing the tail and keep the other dinosaurs off of him. That was his weapon. That was
is that like
defense mechanism?
Is that like swinging the free arm in an offensive foul?
Right. When you go to the basket, you push off and lay the ball up. Right.
Now, what a lot of people may not know is the Murray family has a couple of representatives in the NBA. Your cousin plays for an NBA team.
Right, Lamont Murray plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's my first cousin, he's my dad's brother's son. And he's always been very talented, and I knew someday that, he would make it and do very well in this league, and he's doing well. There
are many rigors that go with the NBA and a schedule. Tracy, I know you like your music. Mm-hmm. What are you more partial to in terms of music?
Well, I've always been an R&B guy. I listen to hip hop before games. Listen to jazz to cool me off sometimes after the games.
Multifaceted.
I'm more or less, I can listen to pretty much anything. It depends on the mood, the mind frame of anything. I'm just a music lover. I do a little bit of dib and dab with music production. Got something going in the studio soon, and then hopefully it will hit your radio stations in a little while. So we'll see.
A shameless plug for your own stuff. You've always thrived as a player coming off the bench. Mindset regarding a bench player.
Well, the bench player has got to come in and either take the game up to another level or maintain the game for when the starters are out, so that when they come back in, they can just keep going. JYD is an Energizer Bunny. So he comes in and changes the game with his hustle. I'm the type that would change the game with scoring, and everybody has different roles.
How much chatter is there, Tracy, amongst guys on the bench during the game as to see that, watch out for this? How much chatter goes on?
Well, we all talk to each other, and communication is a major part of winning. And the more and more we talk, the more and more successful we're going to be as a team. And we're starting to talk a little bit more. And if we're going to be any better, then we're going to have to talk a little bit more. And that goes from the bench to the floor, from the 5 guys on the floor watching each other's backs. And we'll be okay. Stegosaurus. 75 million years ago.
See, I couldn't even steal the thunder. I beat you to it. I thought I would read the plaque and find out what was going on, but you knew this one too. So, like I said, we're going to get an application form downstairs. You could fill it out. You know, we'll get you a little part-time job here.
I don't know. I think you can go there now.
After being with you, I think I can. I've had the full tour. Speaking of tours around the NBA, you've been with 5 different teams. How rewarding was it to come back to Toronto after all that had happened in Denver?
Well, it was a little bit different coming back this time. No Brendan Malone, no Isaiah Thomas, no Damon Stoudemire.
Yeah, but you still wanted to come back because I had spoken
Yeah.
with you on the phone last year in Denver, and while you were loyal to that team, I know that you still felt something for Toronto.
I've always felt something for Toronto. Toronto was the first city that took to Tracy Murray, that grasped Tracy Murray and had love for him. So I've always had love for Toronto, and to come back. It was under different circumstances, but I was definitely welcoming the second challenge of coming back here.
The adjustment period in coming back to Toronto the second time?
It's been rough. It's been a rough adjustment. It definitely wasn't like the first time. People are still great, you know. The people are very fabulous, but things are different. You know, it's Vince Carter's team now. As I say, them guys that were here then are not here now. Coach Wilkins is the coach here. Glenn is the GM. And is owned by different people now, where it was by Bitov before. So, as I say again, they've gone in a great direction. We're winning. We're going to playoffs, but my transition has been kind of rough.
Well, walk us through how you ended up back here in terms of your agent and what was said to Glenn and how Tracy became part of the package, because what people forget is Keon Clark was in that deal too. Walk us through that.
Well, I had no idea what was going on. I just walked in shoot around one day and they said, you traded. I heard rumors, you know, everybody hears rumors. I hear rumors now, but you know, you don't buy into them until they actually happen. I knew I was gone. I didn't know who was going with me. I knew who was going with me when I got to the plane. I even told Mama Dubai, you know, good luck. And here he was on the ride with me. Not actually on the plane, but I knew he was coming.
What did you tell Mamadou and Keon about Toronto before they got here?
Well, I didn't really have a chance to talk to Mamadou, but Keon was on the flight with me, and I sat down and I talked to Keon for about 25 minutes about the city of Toronto, about how he'll love the city, about how supportive they are, and how the organization is still climbing. They're moving up, and they're going to really take to the style of play.
Well, that's it for this episode. And one thing I did learn was that you know your dinosaurs, Tracy Murray. Not only are you a dinosaur as a Raptor, man, you know your dinosaur. I'm going to go down there and get you an application, because when you're done, you're going to have a part-time job here.
I don't know. You better get yourself an application. You know a lot more about it now.
I learned from you, though. I learned from you. Thanks for joining us. I'm Paul Jones, and we'll see you next time off the Hardwood.